Welcome to Expat Hoops. Giordan Watson, Andy Hoverman. I am Tony Budney. Today we're talking about the consensus number one pick in the draft, Victor Wembanyama. Let's throw it to Andy. What questions do you got for Jordan starting off?
So this is one that even when we've discussed it previously with Taylor Persons recently, there aren't too many holes in his game to try to find. But if you're really sitting there trying to make the case of what he needs to work on, what would you say he needs to work on?
Um, okay, obviously he needs to get stronger, but I think that will come with time and age because he's still young. Your body just is not done developing yet. So obviously put some weight on, get stronger just to so you can go through the grind of the NBA season. And then like, is he going to be playing the five? Is he going to be playing the four? That's kind of going to determine is he a perimeter defender? I know he's a great help side defender, but when guys try to go at him more so one on one, if he's playing guard in the four, guard in the five, I mean, he's a great defender because I know just his length in general, but looking at the on ball defense, and which is still amazing if you really watch what's going on, but trying to find a hole, I mean, that it's tough because it's like guys attack him off the dribble, and even if they get a step on him, he's still long enough to recover. And if you're around the paint, he's still long enough, even if you bump him. So, I mean, it's really tough to find a hole.
Yeah, I mean, it's always tough when we're talking about him. We're talking about him from a standpoint of him playing against the competition that he's playing against now, and we're trying to figure out, like we would for general scouting, what he's going to look like against NBA competition. And of course, you talk about him getting beat off the dribble and being long enough to recover. Obviously, that's not going to happen when he gets to the NBA. He's going to have to be a little bit better off the ball and things like that, like you were saying. But I guess what I wonder more than anything else is what kind of time frame is he looking at? Like he's 18 years old. He's going to be in the NBA as a teenager, which isn't something we see a whole heck of a lot these days. Um, it used to be much more commonplace where we'd see that sort of thing. So, what? How long do you think it is going to take him before he may become the elite player that he has the potential to be?
Um, I mean, okay, so depending on what situation he goes to, will be very important. Him being a number one pick, he's obviously going to go to a team that's struggling. Um, so it also depends on just the culture there. The teams can struggle and have bad seasons, but if they have a good culture, that'll speed up his process. Like okay, like a team like the Spurs, like okay, maybe they're struggling a little bit, and I don't think they're going to have the number one pick. But if he went there where they have a culture of winning and they'll put him in good situation to be himself, then I could see his process being sped up. But I still think like, man, it could be a year or 2 year type thing. If you look at Luka coming out, I mean, Luka was playing great in Europe and he came to the NBA and it didn't take long. They showed the flashes and then the flashes turned into consistency. So I think we'll see some great flashes year one. Again, hoping that he stays healthy. And then year two is where probably that midway point is where you're like, okay, he's here now.
The Spurs are pretty close to. They're obviously going to be in a lottery. They're only a half game ahead of the Rockets for being the worst team in the West.
And I think they're also one of the teams that's just made some trades for some other draft picks, so that
Yeah,
also might boost their odds a little bit.
yeah. I mean, the Spurs are always a good situation, with um, uh, the exception being a few years ago with Kawhi Leonard and the odd sort of situation with that. But otherwise, Kawhi was obviously a good player, but there was all sorts of rumors of this and that going on, and eventually he left, and it's sort of been forgotten about. But I imagine he'll do pretty well there. Lakers challenging for that, Rockets challenging for that, and of course, I would be remiss to not talk about the Pistons, who are uh, in line for that as well. So lots of different options coming out, and of course, the NBA lottery is always a crapshoot. Um, as we remember many teams over the years that have gotten the number one pick that had a very low percentage of getting it. So always kind of a crapshoot.
This is probably something worth revisiting closer to the time that we're going to know what the final standings are and all the trades that have shaken out since then.
Yeah, and it's still, there's a long way to go in the season. So, but the teams that are not good are probably going to, for the most part, be not good going forward. And there are a lot more bad teams in the Eastern Conference at this point. Most of the teams in the West are over 500. But you got teams like the Pistons. The Magic are an intriguing team because they've got a really good young core and a couple of players that are really starting to come into their own, but also they don't have a lot of experience on the team. If they end up with a player like him to put beside what they already have in the core, that would be intriguing. The Hornets are down there as well. So, time will tell.
And the thing is, all these teams we've just named are smaller market teams, and they usually try to do their work through the draft picks for trades, So, I mean, wherever he's going, it seems like he'll probably have some more young players with him, and they can grow and gel together. And
the Magic with Banchero and Bol already, that would be, I mean, you'd be talking about one of the more exciting young cores in the league, among other things that they have going for them. So, just putting that out there as it is. What do you think? I know we've talked about his length and we talked about his defense, and I think that's going to be a good asset to help him, get some more minutes, even if he gets beat or something like that on a team, even though he's going to be relatively young when he gets into the NBA. But what do you see as a potential strength for him? Something that's going to really make him stand out in his first years as a teenager in the minutes that he gets?
I just think I'm like coming from Europe. I think they teach the game a little different here, So they teach more of a team oriented thing. So like and if you watch from when I saw earlier in the year, he was playing more without the ball. Like they were trying to get him involved, doing pick and rolls and pick and pops, and like letting the point guard set him up, and then he would attack. And now it's kind of grown to they're just giving him the ball and letting him ISO, clearing out, and he's working from there. So being able to do both is really, really, really important. It's like something that you won't have to learn when you get to the NBA because you've already learned it coming from Europe. Because I know, like, playing in the NBA, playing in America, we learn individual talent and skills, but we don't learn the team chemistry part as much, So I know that they try to stress that and teach that more, even if it's in France and they hoop like Americans a little bit. But I think he'll be a step ahead because he's already played in that kind of a system,
And that was actually going to be kind of part of my question is you've played in France, in Pro A, and kind of not only where he's going to be coming from and making the jump to the NBA. Obviously, this is a season where everybody's kind of expecting him to go to the NBA next season. And I think you can actually kind of see a little bit of a change even in his numbers. Even though I'm looking at some of the past seasons here when he was still in Pro A, his minutes have gone on average from, somewhere in the teens to, as of right now, through 11 games. So it's close to 30 minutes, and the point jump has been huge. So is there anything that you've actually seen this year versus other ones? Because I know that when we've sat down with you guys before, we were well ahead on knowing that he was going to be coming up. And, Americans have now kind of caught on to it, given that there was the high profile game. But is there anything that you've seen in his game so far this year that's been a little bit different from previous seasons where you've seen him?
No, that's the biggest thing I've noticed. It's like, they're just giving him the ball and letting his talent showcase, his skill showcase. Like if you just even watch the last game, I think who did they just play? I was just watching it before we got on here. But, man, they're just giving him the ball, and he's facing guys up. He's posting guys up. He's going off the dribble. And if you look a while ago, he's coming off pick and rolls, and he's waiting on the ball. So that was honestly my biggest concern when I first saw it. I'm like, man, like he's trying to get everything through the offense, but then it's like it's changed. Like they're just giving him the ball, and his skill set is showing. Because even if you watch the game they had in the G League, he was getting busy, but it would still seem like they're trying to like run these top pick and rolls for him and stuff like that. And then it's like now they're just giving him the ball. Everybody's on the other side of the court. He's got it. And he's just going. Like he's showing everything that he can do. It's like they're showcasing him, and they're still winning. So it's like, okay, if you're showcasing the guy and you're winning, that means he's really like the truth. It's not like you're tanking this season just to showcase him. Like, no, these guys are 10-2 right now in France. He's leading the way, doing his thing. So,
yeah, as basically an 18-year-old. I hate to ask this question because it's always a difficult one, but we're trying to get that attention to what we're doing. So there's only one way to do that, which is to ask you if there are any comps for him. A 7'2" long 18-year-old, not many comps in terms of size. But when you're talking about skill set, what do you think he? What's a player that you think that has played either in the league now or in the past that you think is most similar?
It's tough. Like the first thing that comes to mind, it's like a mix of like Porzingis and like KD. Like it's hard to just give him one guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like that size, moving, it's like he moves more fluid than Porzingis. I think he's more skilled. He's got some KD kind of movements. He handles the ball like a guard. Like I remember I was comparing him to Bol, and people were telling me like it's hard to compare him to Bol because Bol moves like a forward, and this guy moves fluid like a guard. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, like it's hard. I don't think we've never really seen anything like this before at this size. Like moving like a guard, running the floor.
I hate to throw this out there too, but you're talking about it. A bigger type of Giannis type player?
Yeah, honestly, I think he moves more fluid than Giannis also.
Oof,
like Giannis is just so dominant physically, but it's not like I always think about like if you took away his height, Victor's height, and made him a 6-foot guard, like he would look like a guard, like he moves that way kind of when he's dribbling the ball. Giannis is still kind of like stiff a little bit. You know what I mean? Like he's just so athletic and dominant that like one move, he gets you on the side and it's over. He gets angled and it's over, So, yeah. It's tough.
I didn't think there would be an actual comp, but I think that's helpful to kind of see where his skill set is at in comparison to some other guys. But I mean, it's like you said, there's a reason he is as sought after as he is, because I think that he is sort of a generational type player that in some ways may end up changing the game if he lives up to the potential that he has, both in his size and versatility and the way he moves, like you said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I've always been a fan of like bigger guys, these guys that can play the 3 to 4, these bigger guys that can do multiple things. I think like these are the people that win championships. You got Giannis, you got LeBron, you got KD. Okay, obviously Steph is a unicorn in his situation, just being able to shoot the ball so well. But like for the most part, like you, Kawhi, these guys that are on the wing that can do multiple things are kind of like the franchise players. Like I know we're in a point guard driven era, but I think these guys on the wing of that size always will trump having a dominant point guard, So it'll be interesting because we've never seen something like this before. So
I don't think it's hyperbole at this point either to say that it's you could have been high on Kevin Durant, which at the time I was too, and I don't think that that's necessarily that I had some unique insight. I just happened to see a lot of his games and thought he was going to be very good, but there were the questions about his size at that point in time, and obviously Greg Oden went over him in the draft too, and you could make a defensible pick of that at the time. The benefit of hindsight, you don't have it, but I really don't think, other than LeBron James, we've had somebody where this is unquestionably the number one. Let's move on. Who's number two? I don't think there's any question that. And by the way, the next couple picks slated in the draft are some really elite level people too. So I can't think of anybody else other than LeBron James. And again, different types of players, but as far as what you're looking at as potential sure things, I just don't see it. Even with KD, as good of a player as he was at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think what everybody's saying is like keep working hard and stay healthy, and it's laid out for you, which is like you said, which is actually crazy because okay, people are still with other people. Well, we wonder this and that, or the hype is carrying them, but it's like, man, like yeah, stay healthy, keep getting better, and it should be like is what it is at this point.